there's a lot of ties now in this game between, Coach Fickell, who you guys played for. So we wanted to pick your brains a little bit more about Coach Fick, especially you, Chimdi, because he was your co-DC when you were there and was the linebackers coach and was really involved. So what were some of your memories of playing for Coach Fick?
Yeah, so Bryant knows this. Coach Fickell could string together a sentence of cuss words in a way that it makes complete sense. And I don't know if there were nouns, verbs, adjectives, or whatever, but the whole team will hear it if you made a mistake, and he'll let you know about it. But Fick, honestly, if I go through and I play for a lot of coaches. I played for the Raiders in the NFL, so I had a lot of coaches, right? If I go through my list of coaches, I think Coach Fickell is probably in my top 3 or 4 coaches that I've ever played for. And the primary reason why is his ability to understand the nuance and the gray areas in football. It's like, coaches come up with scheme, especially defensively. You come up with scheme. You say, this is what the offense is doing. This is what we need to do. But there's so much an offense can do to put you in bad positions. And Fickell understood it. And he didn't just understand, the ins and outs of, where the weakness of the defense is, how they're going to put us in bad positions. But he understood who had what strengths, right? He'd understand, okay, look, this is our game plan, Chim, going in, but they start completing some passes. We're gonna have to lean on you to cover a little bit more, and if they start running the ball or whatever, we're gonna have to lean on you to cover a little bit more, and we have to focus, try to focus on stopping the run. But we may stay in cover 4, but to you, cover 4 may be man to man across the entire field. You may not get any help, right? So it was his ability to just understand the flow of the game, where they're attacking, and how can I lean to the strengths of the players to make sure we put everybody in the best position to be successful. So that's one thing I really loved about Coach Fickell.
So, what I got to say about Coach Fickell, what I remember most about him is just how tough he was. I think head coach Fickell is a little bit different from position coach Fickell. But back when we was in school, first day of pass, you do hoot and holler. I know it was basically cross the nation. Everybody do hoot and holler. Fickell was a defensive lineman for Ohio State. So, he was coaching linebackers at Ohio State. But he was being there nose in. And every hoot and holler, somehow, some way, Fickell's face would be bleeding. We don't know exactly what exactly caused it. But somehow he would get into the scuffle right with us, and his face would be bleeding. I know the head coach is a little bit more, he's not that crazy anymore, I don't think, right? I don't think. But back in the day when he was the position coach, Fickell was intense. So offensively, going against Fickell, going against his linebackers, we know all the great linebackers that he coached at Ohio State. Be ready because they're going to be smart players, and he's going to have those guys ready to go and fired up, and like I said, with that strain of explicits that he can shoot out at you, get everyone's attention. And he was that guy though. He was definitely someone that was locked in and a tough guy for sure.
It's funny. After meeting him a bunch, I think he's matured a bunch. I don't think he's ever cursed in front of a bunch of people, which is really interesting coming from position coach now. But when you guys saw that transition was happening from Cincinnati to the Big Ten to Wisconsin, was that exciting for you? Are you excited when coaches and people who played for Ohio State are coming? I don't say just coming to the Big Ten. Obviously, teams are going to play and face, but is that exciting? And what did that feel like for you guys?
Yeah, I was super excited, man, because you mentioned that maturity. I think we saw that transition at Ohio State from my freshman year to my senior. You probably know, the year after I left, Fickell was interim head coach for a year, but he had settled, in terms of stringing together those experiences. He was doing less and less at that time. He was more understanding of how players feel. I remember my senior year, I wasn't voted captain, and I remember Coach Tressel announcing the captains. And then before I left the team meeting room, Fickell was right there talking to me. And he was like, look, I was in a similar situation my senior year. I expected to be a captain. I wasn't voted captain. We're going to need you to be a leader on this team. And I'm like, I didn't know, it wasn't my position coach to talk to me, right? It wasn't the safeties coach. It was Coach Fickell immediately. And I don't know if he saw my face. I don't even remember. I don't know what led him to do that, but you could see him starting to transition a little bit. at that time. But yeah, I was super excited for him. He seemed like at first I thought he was never going to leave Ohio. I'm like, Fickell, I know he's getting all head coaching offers. Like at some point you got to get out of the state. You know? But I think the Wisconsin move fit him in terms of, Bryant talked about his toughness. When I think Wisconsin, I think toughness. I think that move fit him. I'm also a little bit concerned. I'm rooting for Fickell. So my concern, at Wisconsin, one is I like the old style of play. Even if you modernize the offense a little bit, I still like the old style of play because I think it's contrasted to a lot of what you see. And as a defensive back, I used to go into the Wisconsin game like, I got to play differently. I have to prepare differently. I may actually wear a little bit more pads for this game. And that shift is different. The way Michigan plays is different than Penn State. And when Ohio State plays Penn State, I don't care how good Penn State is. Ohio State's the better team, and they play a similar style. They're going to beat them. It's just going to beat them. It's just what it comes down to. It could be a tough game, whatever, they're going to beat them. But that Michigan game, when things change a little bit and it becomes a brawl, it's just like, who really is going to last the longest. So that's my biggest concern, I think, for Fickell. But, yeah, I'm rooting for him, except for this game. Not rooting for him.